Sunrises over high-felt skies, early dew on a practice green. Pierre's got clubs and quiet focus, chasing more than just a dream. From small town starts to fairway lines, he learned young what it takes. You don't rush the swing or skip the work, every shot's a choice you make. He says, stay steady, trust your ground, let patience lead the way. 'Cause golf's more than a game you score, it's how you live, it's how you grow. When the wind picks up, you don't back down, you aim true and let it go. One bad hole won't break your heart, tomorrow brings another start. Play it honest, play it through, that's the lesson Pierre taught you.
Welcome back to Stories with Stina. My name is Christine. Today I'll be talking to my school friend Pierre from Vuuren. He's a PGA professional and currently the GM of Stain City in Johannesburg. He has showed me that it is important to keep your yeses a yes and to follow through. Life could be like a round of golf. You can't quit, you have to keep going until you reach the end. And sometimes the elements show up things you cannot predict, and the battle seems to be in our mind a lot of the time. And that a round of golf can teach you a lot about yourself. So without further ado, let's listen to what Pierre had to say. Pierre, let me start at the beginning. What was life like for you growing up in a small town in South Africa?
I think I loved living in a small town in South Africa. I think I grew up by two aspects. One, when I was really little, I grew up in a small town called Barberton, which is in Mpumalanga, and it's surrounded by mountains, and it's just an amazing place. I rode my bike to school, and I rode my bike to my friend's house, and we played sports every summer and every school holiday, really. It was just this wonderful bubble as a young kid to be in. Your friends lived down the street, and your aunt and uncle lived in the other street just down below, and everybody knew each other, and everybody knew each other's names, and everybody knows a little bit about everything. The funniest thing with a small town I always found is after church on a Sunday, you'll meet the same people at the grocery store soon after. It was just like this thing, everybody had their routines, and I think small town, we quickly dismiss it sometimes, but especially if you've left, but it really leaves a mark on who you become and who you are as a person. I think sometimes I wish that for my kids to would have had that a little bit, and then to some extent they still have it today, but it left a mark. I think a real positive mark on living in a small town. It's a privilege, I guess. It was for us back in the day, actually. It was just a special place that you could just feel safe in, I guess. That would really sum it up nicely, I think.
Yes, for sure. I feel the same. We were talking the other day, trying to explain to our kids, like, I don't know, talking about routines, like when you go to the store, and then we were trying to explain to them, like when we would buy bread and we would still put it through the bread cutter, and then you would eat we call it the butt of the bread, the korsi.
Yes.
Like if it falls out of the machine, you would eat it, and you can't even think of it happening these days. Kids operating that blade pushing thing, it's just so different, right?
Or just going to a video store. I mean, that was a big thing. On a Friday afternoon or Friday evening, or on a weekend, if it was a rainy weekend, you would pop into the video store, and again, you'll see the same people there. But it was a thing. When there was new releases or whatever, it was a different time.
Yes, and then
You
you
know,
open the box and someone took it. It's not there.
exactly, yeah. It wasn't there, and then you argue with the guy behind the counter because you're like, well, this has been out now for so many days. Who's got it? You know, because
Yes,
there would be a fine for them. But
yes,
it was just a great time. Yeah.
yes. Oh, that's good. So with your golf journey, take me, I mean, we went to primary school together for some time, and then you went to a different high school. And so tell me, how did golf first enter your world? And was it an influence from family or friends? How did you discover it? And when did you know that's your passion?
Yeah, I think I always knew sport would play a role going forward. When I was young, I always, I was obsessed. I always joke. I think it was my first love because it's all I wanted to do. It's all I cared about. School was fun and school was fine, and academics took a bit of a side, pushed to the side a little bit. It's probably not the greatest example, but and I lived for sport. I lived for athletics. I lived for rugby, cricket, anything to do with the ball, anything you could run or be competitive in. I think I'm super competitive, which is I kind of found out later in life that that's what drives me career wise. But um, I think my cousins and I will always play against each other. I would go visit them, and we would be with them. And for that weekend or week that I would be with them, we would do something different every day. We'll play tennis, we'll play cricket, we'll go swim, we'll play rugby, we'll do everything. And they played golf, and I didn't. And we went and played at their course with this big leather bag full of clubs and second-hand golf balls, and we took turns caddying at every hole because it was so big and heavy. Um, and I loved it. But not, I think I just loved it because it was something else I could do sport wise. And I
Mhm.
came home and I said to my dad, I want to play golf. And my dad, I know his reaction was just priceless. My dad was the most unsporting person in the whole wide world. And, here he had the son who just wanted to do everything. And yeah, reluctantly he went out and got me a set of golf clubs, and I started chipping around in the yard and started playing, and um, yeah, and then I think what I really loved about golf was just the fact that it's you against the elements. It's not a team sport. Everything else is sort of revolves around a team, and you don't have a teammate. You can have a bad cricket match, but you can still win in the end of the day because your teammates help you. So I think golf really hit that for me. That spot of individual, you know, uh, you against the elements. And what I really liked about it was also difficult. Golf is a really difficult sport, so you know obviously there's obsession with being good and being competitive. It kind of drove me to practice and play and work on my game, and then I would get home and from a cricket match or from practice, and first thing I'll do is I'll grab my wedge and bag of golf balls, and off I am, going to go practice, and I'll be there till it's dark and ride my bike back home, and then it's time for schoolwork and dinner and all that. But
Mhm.
yeah, then this became sort of a thing, and it just continued through high school, and I became pretty good at it, and then when I was always, I wanted to go to university, but golfing wise there wasn't much. So I ended up going to the golf academy in Pretoria, um, and spent 2 years at the golf academy. Um, young 19, 20-year old, and with a whole bunch. I think we were 60 or 70 first years in the golf academy that year, and really found that hey, this is a career path. There's actually something to do here apart from playing, which I obviously still wanted to pursue. And again, my dad, I sort of after 2 years at the golf academy, I said to him, "Listen, I think I want to take another year and just play." And he made it pretty clear that for 14 years he's been fitting the ball for my sporting obsession. So it was time to go and work a little bit, and it was probably the right thing. Um, and I started. My parents were amazing. They supported me, and my mom was the one who was next to the cricket field making us sandwiches and coffee, and picking me up on practice and taking me to golf and driving me to league matches. So they were really really encouraging, although they didn't really, I guess, get it. This obsession that I had, but they just supported it, which I think was amazing. So, and I think that's sort of where it got going for me. And once I started working, yeah, I think I realized that this is actually this can become a career.
So, what was your first job title in the golfing world?
I was the assistant pro shop I was a assistant pro shop. Yeah, assistant in a pro shop, so assistant golf professional, if I can call it
Okay.
that. And yeah, I was at Swartkop Country Club in Pretoria, and I spent 3 years working there, which was great. I absolutely loved the club. I loved the traditions they had. It's a really old club full of history, and I really enjoyed that. So, and then I continued my studies. So I did the 2 years with the Golf Academy, and then I did another 3 years with the PGA of South Africa. And you go to class, and it's sports science and psychology and sports law, and there's golf swings and history of golf, and it's like 10 or so subjects. And so you go to class, and then you do assignments, and then you write exams, and then I finished with that. So that took about 5 years. So I finished with that in 2007, and then I actually moved to the US for 3 years.
I
uh,
remember you were in the States for a while. Where in the States did you go?
So I spent a year in Philadelphia. Loved Philadelphia. I thought it was the
You
coolest
did.
place. Um, Sports fans are crazy there, and are super competitive. And obviously me loving sports, I love the sports there. So became an Eagles fan and became a Phillies fan, and loved it there. And then I moved down to Florida for 2 years. I spent some time in Boca, or lived in Delray Beach, and spent time in Boca, which was amazing for golf. And yeah, I was working there for about 2 years, and then in 2010, I thought sort of decided it's time to go home. So we kind of did a thing. Well, I say a year in Philly, but in total it was a year and 2 years in Florida. So we would do summers in Philly, winters in Florida.
Oh, that makes sense. That's a good split
Yeah,
between the two.
yeah. Florida and summer is very different. Very
And
different.
winter in Philadelphia can be quite
Exactly. Exactly. So
yeah.
so it worked out really well. And we did that for like 3 years and back and forth, and then the club in Florida wanted to appoint us permanently. Myself and another South African guy, who was actually with me in the golf academy. We sort of traveled together, and it was my travel wife, if you can call it like that. So we looked after each other. But yeah, so they wanted to appoint us permanently. The visas got declined, and I decided actually I had enough. It was time to go home. Yeah, so I came home in 2010.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the culture shift. It's good that you have someone that you can relate to. I feel, especially when you're overseas, if you have that friend or buddy that knows where you come from, how things work, what you mean when you say it. How was it for you being overseas and experiencing a different culture, especially in America, where everything seems to be bigger? Um,
Yeah, it was. And my first time I went, actually, the first time I went over to the US was in 2004. I was 20 years old, and I went to coach golf at a summer camp up in New York. And here I am, fresh faced, like never even, never. I don't think I've even flew before that. And here I am on a plane, direct flight, 21 hours to New York, and just like it was crazy. And that was before you could Skype, or you could video call, or do any of this. You had to
yes.
go buy a card and had a code, and you dial home, and it was the whole spiel. But anyways, my mom was in a state. But off I went, and it was amazing. I loved it. I loved it from the time I set foot off that plane in New York. I fell in love with it because I think your world becomes quite small. When you're a small town, and they're from there, okay, move to Pretoria, but the bubble stays quite small. You go from golf course to work or whatever, but then you go out and this is like this amazing world. And yeah, I think the nice thing I think I found with Americans is they were, they were a few of the guys I met, they were quite blunt. If you said something that didn't make sense, they would say, what does that mean?
Yes.
Now, you'll say, I'll see you now.
Yeah.
Which is a very South
Yes.
African thing. And they're like, what does it mean? You're like, no, I'll be here now. Like, so it was quite different. And also, I think from Americans' point of view, I think their world is just as small because,
Mhm.
they don't necessarily travel. They don't see the world apart from their world. Like America is so big, like it's so diverse, different accents in different states and different cultures and different way of doing things, which is all in one. I mean, you could travel to all the states in the US and have a different experience through all of them.
Yes.
Um, and then we would have guys that would coach with us that's from the UK, and they'll be like, "So where are you from?" He's like, "No, I'm from England." And they'll be like, "Oh, is that in London?" Had no idea. So for us it was quite funny, but it was also for us a nice way to educate them a little bit. But I think it would help me with Vern traveling with me, who was my mate. We had good laughs, but we also adapted so quickly because we worked at clubs. You start rolling your R's and you start changing the way you talk and when you follow sports and because but I think the thing that helped us the most is we dealt with golfers and we were golfers.
Mhm.
And when you put them into the same room, there's always something in common. There's always something you can speak about. Golfers always like to talk about how bad their round were, or the bad shot he hit on 17, or the great putt he made on 15. And everybody can relate. And I think that helped us really well because when we started talking to members, we were decent golfers too. So the members immediately, because golf's so difficult. When you can play a little bit, all of a sudden, this foreign guy actually can play golf, and then
Yeah.
you become his foreign friend who can play really well. So I think that helped. But what I struggled with in the beginning was food. It was so different from what I was used to. Going shopping for groceries. The first time I was like, I don't know what to buy. Like, this is so different. Like,
Yeah.
it was just odd. But we didn't cook much. We pretty much ate takeout every
Yeah.
second day. That's what it was.
Yes. Um, so how did you end up becoming a PGA professional? And especially where you started from and how hard. Just tell me a little more about how did you end up there and what was the challenges you maybe came across that you overcome?
So yeah, I think it was actually quite difficult because when I started working at Swartkrop Country Club, I was still very much wanting to play golf and this and that, but I still had my amateur status. And then as soon as I started working for the PGA, doing my studies through the PGA, you basically then lose your amateur status. So then you sign a document and then poof, there you are, you're a PGA professional. But it's not just that simple because essentially what happens is you have to play the certain level to be able to, so you can pass all of your theoretical exams. Then you have to do a practical coaching exam where you've got this senior coach standing behind you and they give you a student and you go through that process and you coach this person, he's taking notes of what you're saying and you like just focusing on what you're doing. And then you have to pass a playing ability test, so you have to play like tournament golf, um, which is nerve-wracking in itself. But if you're at a certain level, I mean, it is what it is. You can do it. And then you qualify, and then you become a member of the PGA of South Africa, and then through that you start playing events. So there's two aspects. There's a professional golfer and there's a golf professional. A professional golfer is somebody that plays golf for a living full out. Um, and then you've got somebody who's a golf professional who works within the industry but is a professional at what he's doing. So it's kind of, you're essentially doing a degree in golf, I guess,
Right.
because it's agronomy, it's finance, you need to know so much about every aspect of the business. So it's not as, you know, if you're a financial person, you deal with financial issues every day. You look at budgets, you look at numbers, payments, debitors, creditors, etc. But when you're in my role where I'm now, is you need to know you know about agronomy, about marketing, about events. You need to know about budgeting. How to read a budget, see a budget, understand a budget, put it together, etc. So there's a lot to
Yeah.
retail, food and beverage. So there's a lot, but you manage all of that. So and then eventually, when you're in the industry now, you're PJ professionals. I can't just play amateur golf. Um, so I have to play professional events, which is tricky because you work full time. You don't have the time to practice. And we've got our own event structure within the PGA. So we play our own events as an order of merit. And I've always felt that I need to make time to practice. I got into this because I love golf. I'm into this because you know there's this love for this game, and then what a lot of guys do is they get into it, they become a PJ professional, and they just stop playing. Because work becomes quite demanding. So it's like playing golf and work,
Yeah.
try to find that balance. So I've been managing it now for 20 years, and I kind of still enjoy the fact I still enjoy playing, competitively. So I try and make time to practice, try and make time to play. So, I think there's a little bit of a sacrifice there because when you have a family and you have this and that, you have to make time to be out there and play and practice, play with members or play events. So it is a bit of a sacrifice.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, it's a journey. It definitely is, and then when you get into your 20s, I think that's quite a tricky time because you've just qualified. You think you're going to change the industry, and then everybody else senior above you looks pretty much saying, listen, just relax. Your time will come. You've got a lot to do.
You're on the training
Yeah,
room still.
exactly. Yeah, very much, very much.
Well, it sounds like you actually get more of an overview than a lot of people doing their business degrees, what you were
Mm,
saying, like the budgeting and all of that. Like, it's fantastic that you found a career path that you can play and you can learn all of that in the business because, you know, not everyone gets to see all of those aspects of everything necessarily. Um, so who were your mentors or who influenced you, and supported you along this journey? Did you have someone besides, you mentioned your parents and your family before, but did you have like a role model or a mentor or someone that was just there encouraging you and guiding you through all of these processes you went through?
yeah, you have to. I think in our industry, you know, having a good mentor is super important. Now I've realized that, and I've had the privilege of becoming a mentor for a few of the young guys that's worked for me or that I've gotten to know. So, and I kind of realized this a little bit late. My 20s were all about traveling and having fun and working and playing and this and that, and eventually when I settled down, when I came back from the US in 2010, I coached a little bit and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I never really enjoyed coaching as much, although I enjoyed passing on the knowledge. I just, I'm a very impatient person. So, I want to see the results now. And it was coaching was a process, and I enjoyed the aspects of the high performance coaching, but I just never, it was something I felt I needed to do, get on my CV. So, my coach, Greg, who's on the range now, who runs the academy here, I can understand Greg's, you know, frustrations, challenges, whatever he needs to face on a daily basis because I've lived it. And then I went and worked for a company called Retail Tribe. So Retail Tribe was it's like a marketing communications company for golf clubs and golf courses specifically worldwide. They've got courses, about 450 odd golf courses across the world. And I started working for them, dealt with them, when I was at Swartcorp when they just started. And I loved the way of they were thinking about, being creative, getting the PJ professional. He's the rainmaker at your facility. He's the expert. He knows everything about golf. He helps you improve. He helps you play better golf, play more golf, get value out of your membership, etc., etc. So I started working for Retail Tribe, and there's a really good team there, and I became really good friends, and we're still good friends today with Bart and Craig. They were really good, and I came into my life at a good time. I was sort of, do I want to do this in golf anymore? Blah blah blah. And then there was we worked for a gentleman called Ian James, and Ian, um, Ian became somebody that I looked up to a lot, because Ian ran the ship, and Ian was the one who was encouraging us to, so I started working with clubs in the in New Zealand and Australia, and I was encouraging these guys to get out from behind the counter and do more, and give more lessons, introduce more people to golf, be the rainmaker, etc., etc. And Ian really, encouraged that with us, and I think it hit me, and it was this realization of, but I can do this. This is what I should be doing. I should be at a facility doing this, because you're dealing with a lot of guys, and it's just a struggle, and you're like, but there's this opportunity here for you, and you can't see it, and yeah, I knew I I have a chat with Ian and this and that, and Ian became a really good mentor for me, and yeah, and then I moved on from there. I moved on from Retail Tribe and became the director of golf at Serengeti, which was great. And Ian sort of continued being a good mentor for me. We don't speak as much these days, but we still keep in touch. But I think from where I needed to have that mentor, um, and a good team around me with Bart and Craig and the whole Retail Tribe team, it was really encouraging. This creative way, and what I've learned there, I still implement today. When I came out and I became the director of golf at Serengeti, everything was like Retail Tribe stuff, Retail Tribe, and this is my Bible. This is what I do, and it over time it's evolved with my own spin on things. But I think it's helped me a lot career wise, because then I took that jump quite quickly from leaving Retail Tribe from director of golf into the general manager role at Saint Lamia. That happened within 4 years or so. So it came quite quickly, but because I think that's the 3 years I spent there with Ian and the team has been great. And then since then I've been lucky to work closely with a guy like Louis Destru, who's the chairman of the PGA of South Africa. We've become good friends. And there's a few people that I've picked up along the way that's been really good to me. Chairmans that I've had at previous clubs that became good friends. That's really successful in business. So then it changes, because you've got different skill sets that you need to add to your toolbox. I need to understand operations better, or finance, or whatever, and then you deal. So my three chairmans at San Amir, one was an engineer and a developer, so he saw the business in one way. Then I had a guy who was the CEO of Hyundai South Africa, so he was very much focused on operations and get it done. It's different way of looking at the business. Then I had a chartered accountant. So you learn a bit from everybody along the way, but I think it's just still wanting to be a sponge and just consume when seeing these opportunities are in front. Because with my last chairman, when he came on board, I was very unsure what that relationship was going to be like, because we're very different people. And I just changed my mindset to saying, listen, okay, let's use this as an opportunity to learn it. We actually got on really well.
It's fantastic. It's good. It's good to hear. Something that I see from people is that can make all the difference is changing your perspective. And seeing things as an opportunity, rather than putting on the brakes and not being.
I also think it comes with a bit of experience. Like, if that had happened 10 years earlier, I think we would have clashed a bit. But because you mature a little bit, and you realize that you have to sometimes take a step back and use it as an opportunity. And it comes through education, what we do with the Club Managers Association, and going to World Conference and all this and that. We really, you sort of just evolve and learn a little bit, because they change over, especially in the club industry, and I guess in any business, you can have a different chair on your board every 2 years or 3 years. If you're part of the management team, and it can become quite challenging quite quickly. So
Yeah, I imagine, and I can imagine, even if like people with the love for the game and competitiveness, all of that can play into it too, I guess. Which is, like you say,
yeah,
thank goodness for the maturity that comes with it too.
just a little.
Just a little. All right. So with golf, do you feel you get better as you with time? Is it one of those, like if you think of athletics, for instance, you can't always, with aging and all of that, and it's something that you cannot keep up with necessarily. But with golf, I know you require practice, ongoing practice and training and all of that, but do you feel it is a skill that improves over time? The longer you do it, the better you get? Or how would you describe that?
It's interesting. I think it's different for different people. So I think for me personally, I think I don't have to practice as much as what I used to get the results because I understand my game better. So I don't hit shots that I know I can't hit. So, and I think I remember being a junior player, I'd stand and I look at this tree and I think, oh, I can hit it over that tree. And I've done that before. Yeah, probably one out of 20 times, but yeah, today is my day.
There's
You
the
get
day.
into the middle of the tree and you're upset with yourself. But
Right.
but I think it becomes, yeah, I think you with time you understand your game a little bit better. I find it a lot easier to play at the level that I am now than what I did probably 15 years ago. I was probably a better golfer then, but I was probably more inconsistent than what I am today. I'm more consistent. So I guess I walk off the golf course a little happier these days than what I did before because it could be really good or really bad. But I guess with that comes maturity, not getting upset about bad shots, accepting that you are going to not always going to be perfect, etc. From a technique point of view, it never stops. You always evolve, you're always learning, your body changes. You're not as flexible as what I was when I was, 15 years ago, or, you know, um, you're maybe stronger today than what you were 15 years ago. I don't know. I think it does change. I spent time with a guy called Mark McNulty at San Lemia, and Mark has won 17 or 18 times on the European Tour. He's a phenomenal golfer. He played in the World Cup. He played against Tiger, and Mark is probably one of the top five putters of all time in golf. And it amazed me because here's a guy who's achieved a lot in golf, and at 70 years old or 71 years old, Mark is still trying to find the secret and working on his game. So I think it never stops. You always, there's always something new to learn. Technology has changed, a lot as well. So results is immediate. It's there on your phone. When I went for my first golf lesson, I had a guy with a video camera. He'll take a video and he connects it to his computer and he puts you up against Ben Hogan or Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus or whoever it was. And there's this comparison. It gives you against one of the best players that ever lived. And it just wasn't fair. And I
Yeah.
think today, with coaching, it's so much easier. We put you on a monitor, it picks up ball flight, tells you everything. Um, and it gives you right there on your phone. So I think it's become a little bit easier to sort of stay on track. But I think you golfers is what's amazing is you'll never stop learning. There's always equipment changes, courses change, conditions change. Winter it plays easier, it plays firmer. Summer it's lush, it's thicker. It's
Mm-hmm.
wet, it's dry, it's windy, it's not, it's hot, it's cold. It's always different. So I think from that aspect, I don't. It takes a long, long time to really understand it and get good. Um, but yeah, it's just this pursuit of trying to figure it all out because I've been playing golf now for I guess 27 odd years, and I still sometimes feel like I don't know what I'm doing out there. It just happens.
Interesting. So, you kind of touched on that golf is such a mental game. What do you see as being when you were 20 years ago? What was the biggest mental barriers you would have versus now? Or what would you see when you were coaching amateurs? What would you see as kind of something that would derail them where they grow into it and kind of mature into that um, mental game?
Yeah, I think there's definitely more of a focus on the mental aspect. I remember mid 2000s, 2005 ish. I remember Retief Goosen who won the US Open. it came out he was working with a coach, with a mind coach, and everybody was like, you know, mind coach, and it's just it was this odd thing, this new, phenomenon. Oh, jeepers! Somebody's thought to think to somebody who knows actually how the brain works under pressure, and it really worked for a TIFF. And then more and more people started picking these up, and then sports teams started bringing them in, and um, I think because golf is so difficult, and it's you on your own, and maybe perhaps if you're playing professionally, it's you and your caddy, that it can eat away at you, because if you don't play well over time and you spend so much time working on your game, you're seeing results on the range, but you can't necessarily take that onto the golf course where it actually then counts, because that's a different kind of pressure. When you're standing, your hands are sweaty, you can't feel them. You've got this funny sensation in your body where it's just adrenaline is just taking over. You start getting quick, you don't take a breath, your breathing is out. And then it really becomes difficult to control the ball flight, it becomes difficult to control the club. And then it's when you make mistakes. So I think it's really important to stay in the moment. And I think as a young golfer, I got ahead of myself a lot on the golf course, because I would start around really well and I think, today's my day. And I get ahead of myself. Before I know it, I've made 3 or 4 bad swings, and then poof, the whole round is gone. Um, where I think when you play a lot more, there's a bit of maturity and understanding your game, be able to stay in the moment. I think that's when you realize, okay, I've made a bad swing, but let make sure that the next swing is a better swing, or my next shot is a better shot. And I think a lot of junior golf, you know you don't always I don't have the guidance, maybe, because my dad wasn't a golfer. I just sort of self-taught, and you
Yeah.
just get on with it because you're talented. You can play a little bit. I'm actually looking forward to spending time with my son
Mm-hmm.
when he starts, really getting into it and understanding, what it is like to be out there, and trying to, let him be in a better headspace than what I was, because I was a real hothead playing golf. But it's demanding, because also you have to remember you're doing it for 5 hours. When you play cricket, like if you can bat for 5 hours, you've probably made 100 or 150 runs. But in golf, when you're out there, you could be out there for 5 hours. It could be 5 hours of torture, or it could be the best 5 hours of your life. And I think that's key, being able to switch off in between. So you switch off, walk to your ball. Once you get there, you switch back on. But it's also not easy. When I play tournaments now, I like to have a chat and try and just switch off a little bit in between shots, because mentally for 5 hours is just draining, and then doing that over 4 days is even worse.
Imagine. And
Hmm.
so, what life lessons has golf taught you to show up for the day today?
I think yeah, it's discipline. I think you need to have discipline if you want to practice. You know, when you want to be really good, you have to spend a lot of time at it. And I think that a lot of people have got this perception of professional golfers. They just play golf, but they don't realize that they probably, like any person that works has got a 8 to 5. So does a golfer. They gym, they stretch, they play, they practice, they got nutritionists, etc., etc. So you have to be really disciplined. Um, and I think that's translated nicely into work for me. Making sure that you're present, you're here when you have to. When you promise your member you'll do something, you'll do it. When you've promised the chairman that you will be there for them for that specific meeting, that you're there, you delivered, you're prepared. I think so. That's crucial, because you get so much stuff thrown at you. Because remember, you walk from here. If I walk from here down to the restaurant, I probably have 5 people that would stop me and ask me something specific. So one, you have to really remember what you've just said yes or no to, and to who you did. So I don't leave without my book, because I go everywhere with it, and if I lose it, I'm stuffed.
Yes,
But
amen.
it's I have to. Otherwise, I would say and promise things that I can't deliver on. So I think, and preparation. I think being prepared for an AGM, being prepared for a meeting. I've got a CEO now who's a facts-based person. He will not say yes until he's got the facts to support that decision, which is great for me because then I prepare, I get my stuff ready. When I go to him or I send him an email, I'm delivering him the facts, expecting a result. So from a preparation point of view, in golf you have to prepare for an event. I love the fact that I know, okay, I'm playing an event in 3 weeks' time because then I start preparing and getting myself ready, and it's equipment and it's this and it's that and it's practicing, keying and so on. So I like that build up into playing. So and the same work wise, if I know I've got a big project coming up, it's the preparation starts, and then obviously then there's the execution of it.
Yes.
Seeing something through. There's I've learned because I worked at retail shops. I always had these great ideas. We're going to do this, we can have this event or whatever. And in the beginning, I would just pass it on to the team. Like, okay, well, you guys run with it. And I think over time, I've learned that if it's my idea, I need to also assist them to seeing it through. And that's also the attention to detail and being able to make sure that you deliver and what you. So I think execution, discipline, preparation. I think those are the three key ones. If I do.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, and you can pass that on to your kids. Some of these things I feel, it sounds like such a wonderful journey you've been on, though, because like you say, we don't know these things just when we're younger. But I mean, you have that under your belt now. And I guess your kids would just learn from you and they see you doing that day to day. So that's such a good example.
Exactly. I think Josh is getting old enough now to realize what he's going to grade 1 next year, so he's kind of starts understanding what I do. Before he was just he thought all I do is play golf every day. But I think he's getting a nice understanding of what I do, and it's nice. I love taking him with me on the course, and we go do course inspection and we drive around, and it's really just us spending a bit of time together. But and the questions that come is just the best. But it is. It's a nice. I think I could have probably done anything else, but I think this is something I enjoy doing, obviously, and I think that's really important. To pick something that you're going to enjoy, and I think that's why the reluctance was of what I was going to do when I finished school a little bit, because, and I guess I get too many options in the end, and then I knew something in sport was going to be, and today when I sit here and I look at what we're doing on a daily basis, I absolutely love it. I love the projects. I love planning something, making changes. We're hosting Live Golf next year here at Stain City. That's probably going to be the biggest golf event we've ever seen in South Africa. And here I am part of the team that's going to bring it in, So it kind of gives you that pinch me moment feel, thinking of where this all started, telling my dad I wanted clubs, to where this is now, So it's been great. It's been really great.
Fantastic. Do you have any rituals, golfing rituals or things you do before you play? Superstitious things?
Not really. I guess sometimes I would use the same ball marker. Well, actually, the one thing I do, I've got two things really, now that I think about it. So it's really weird, the one particularly. But I do mark my golf ball the same way, but that's quite normal, because you have to mark your golf ball. If somebody accidentally plays it in a tournament, you can identify it. If you hit it into a tree or somewhere, you can know that's my ball. And then there's a second thing I do. I lick my glove before I hit a shot every time.
Okay.
And you can see when I play with somebody the first time, after like the third hole, they say, listen, we have to ask, well, what is it with you licking your gloves? I said, well, I just a thing, because I'll just go lick my glove and then I'll grip my club, and it just feels like it's
That's fair.
I don't know. but it's weird. And then sometimes, I'll use my glove or whatever, and then I have to get a shot, and I can't lick my hand now. So it's like the weirdest thing. But anyways, so that's probably the one thing that I've done for the longest. But apart from that, nothing really. Yeah, before tournaments, I like to pack my bag, have everything and plasters. And these days it's deep heat as well, So there's a lot that goes in there, but marking my golf ball and licking my glove is the two main things.
So you touched a little bit on the South African golf courses, and you have traveled, and obviously met people from all over the world, all kinds of players. Um, do you feel what in your opinion gives South African golfers the competitive edge? What is different about the sportsmanship? Is there, if there is anything that you've noticed?
I think we kind of had this conversation, just the other day. South Africa's got 150,000 registered golfers. There's probably more registered golfers within 20 kilometers of where you're staying. Right. But yet we produce fantastic golfers. I think we're the country that's won the second most majors after America. I think it starts with school. I think, kids in school are encouraged to do everything. You play cricket, you play rugby. If there was soccer, we would play soccer. You've got good teachers. I mean, I remember us in primary school. As the potgieter, I still see him every now and again. He comes and plays golf. You have teachers that cared, that was actually really good sportsmen themselves, that passed on their knowledge and their passion for it. And it's the snowball of, this is how we do things, this is how you'll play, you get coached well, you go to rugby camps, you go to cricket camps. So I think we're a very sporty nation, but also in a sense of, you have to perform. School system is really strong. It's evolved a lot from when we were in school to where it is now. But if you look at our school system, the tournaments that the guys have or the kids have these days are top level. They're fantastic. Back when I was a golfer, we played, we had like junior foundation events. Today, you've got SA kids, US kids, league, union golf, So at San Lamia, we hosted an event called the Junior Africa Champs, which is a world qualifier for kids to qualify for events worldwide. To go play in these massive golf events in Ireland or the US or wherever. So, I think we've got a really strong sporting culture within South Africa, and that just translates into everything. And I think that's why the Springboks have had their run, because we just, if one good player is injured, there's 3 or 4 in line waiting to take that person's position, who's just as good or can even be better. And I think from a golfing point of view, we've just produced, and Golf RSA has done a great job here, where they've invested a lot in amateur golf, taking golfers to play the Irish amateur, the Scottish amateur, the British amateur. They take them over, expose them to these courses, the conditions, the quality of golf, doing high performance sessions with them. So I think from a country that's so small, we actually punching above our weight 10 times. And then you fall from a facilities point of view, we've only got 420 odd golf courses in South Africa, of which I'd say 300 or 250 is really like, you could say are good. So again, to have that amount of golfers spread, the quality that we have with the amount of golf courses we have, again, it just shows you how good we are as a nation. On the sporting field and sporting front, I think that's why we do well. Like maybe we're also just super competitive at the same time. I don't know.
I think so. What are the ages these days? At what age do kids usually start golf, or does that just depend on when they get exposed to it?
Yeah, I think for me, being a father now and having my 2 kids, I mean, like I said, Josh is turning 7 in Jan. Lexi's turning 5 in Jan. I think it's almost too early to expose them to competitive golf just yet. I think I would like for them to do as much as possible for as long as possible, and then only let them. It must always come from them. I don't drag Josh to the range or whatever and tell him to go and hit. It must come from him. But I've seen, when we had the Junior Africa Champs at San Lamia, there were kids starting from I think was 5 years old, playing 9 holes, having to walk, and that's very little.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was cute. Dad had the bag, and they helped him along and this and that. It was very cute. Whether those kids are going to be the ones who's actually going to make it and become the next Ernie Els or Ashley Buai or whoever it is, we'll have to see. I think there is a time to specialize, but also think there's a time to just develop your overall, athletic ability and being able to do everything. So I think that's for me. Yeah, they start young, much younger than what I remember. Um, whether it's healthy or not, we don't know yet. I think it's I've seen too many examples of that happening with kids where it hasn't worked out, where the kid actually ends up hating golf because the pressure has just been so much.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to win your age group, but once you get to and be a good amateur golfer, and once you get to playing professional golf, you realize that there's 200 players out there that is just as good or better than you are. And I
Right.
think that's a big jump. That's a big hurdle for a lot of players.
Mhm.
Some can and some can't make that jump. And I think, but with the structures that we've got with Junior Africa Champs and all of this and that, I think, or with SA Kids, and I think it exposed them a little bit earlier. But there's a certain point where there's a burnout point, and once they flip that switch, so yeah, they do start them young. It's very
Yes.
cute. I love it. I love taking my kids to the range, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine taking Josh around and to a competitive event just now. He just goes for his lessons on a Saturday, and he just if he plays it just for the fun of it, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, they're still learning to read and write, at that age.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is the next big dream for you? Like, you've achieved so much. Is there one goal or a few more goals you would like to achieve or dreams you have?
Yeah, I think this has happened quite quickly. Moving into this role at Stain City, which is this amazing facility, the city within a city in Joburg. Um, I think there's still some goals I would like to achieve. Um, whether I don't know, it's tricky. I think for now, where I am is to see this live event through that we're gonna have next year. So the pressure is a lot because the expectation is that the golf course must and will be in the best possible condition it can be or we've ever seen in South Africa. It's going to be the biggest event in terms of numbers. We've got the world's best players that's going to come down and play here. So I think my short-term focus is definitely to see that through. We're discussing hopefully a year two extension to host it for 2027 as well. Then the focus would be on delivering a better golf course than what we did in 2026. So it starts from the beginning. Um, but from a career point of view, yeah, I think I would like to. Um, there's a few jobs in South Africa that I would like to still think I could go and do. Facilities or clubs. But I think for now, I'm really content and happy with where I am, considering I've only been here now for what is it, three months. So this is very fresh. But the right opportunity, will present itself at the right time, and I've always been fortunate with that. Where and I think previously at San Lamia, I was there for almost 6 years. I loved it there. My family loved it. It was such a community. It kind of had that small town feel. But it was a tough decision. But with this big challenge that's waiting, it was a really nice opportunity. So I think for now it's where I need to be and where I'm needed. The next opportunity, yes, we've been lucky. it's always presented itself. God has really looked out for us. Whenever we've needed it or a bright opportunity, and if there was an opportunity that presented itself that wasn't the right one, it's always worked out that it didn't really materialize. So we've been very fortunate. Yeah.
That's great.
So for now, Stain City is the main goal.
That's where you are. All right. For the next little bit, I have some fun rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And then we're gonna head into closing off. And I would like, if you're comfortable, me asking a little bit more about your personal life, your family, your wife, and all of
Sure.
that. Okay, so let's start with the rapid fire questions. What's your favorite South African golf course?
Leopard Creek.
Tell me why.
It's in the Bushveld. It's a phenomenal golf course. It's just nothing feels like it in South Africa. Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Great. What's your most memorable golf shot you've ever hit?
I'd say my most memorable was I think my second hole-in-one I made at Zalza a couple of years ago. One bounce into the hole on a tough hole. I would probably say that's probably the one.
Coffee before a round or not?
Coffee.
Yes,
Always coffee.
always coffee. What is your dream four-ball? It can be anyone living or past from past.
Wow. I'd say my golfing idol with Ernie Els will have to be in there. Loved Ernie since I was little. He was my hero. I'd like to have Tiger Woods in there, greatest golfer that's ever lived. And the third person, I don't know, I don't want to be one of those cliches that says, Michael Jordan or Muhammad Ali or anything like that. I think if it's me, Ernie, if it's myself and Ernie and Tiger, I'd definitely throw my other good friend Mark McNulty in there. He was a big mentor for me. He's a phenomenal man, and yeah, he's been great for me. So there we go.
Okay. What is your favorite go-to golf club when nothing else works?
Driver, just my driver. If nothing else works, I just tee up my driver and I just try and hit it as hard as I can, and everything will fix itself from there.
What is one drill you would recommend for every amateur to practice daily?
Probably not say drill, but I would say shot, and that is putting from 6 feet, from 6 feet to the hole. If you could be really good from that distance, you'll be a fairly decent golfer.
Do you have a favorite golf movie?
I do. I've got a few actually, but my all-time favorite is Happy Gilmore. I love Adam Sandler, and I think I've always loved Happy Gilmore. And the other day, Joshua got to watch Happy Gilmore 2 with me, and he loved it. So I'd say Happy Gilmore. It's got to be Happy Gilmore.
Oh. And, what is one word that describes your golfing style or your coaching style? If you could sum it up in one word.
I've always liked to keep it very basic, and I don't like to overcomplicate it. So when I was coaching, it was doing the basics really well. I still try and remind myself of doing the basics really well. So that's a key word. Keeping it basic, I'd say.
So now I want to ask you a few questions. Just, tell me, how did you meet your wife? And tell me about your kids and your family life. Just who is Pierre behind the scenes? Who is the Pierre at home?
So Pierre at home is a lot less intense than the Pierre at work. I'm actually very chill. I like to. I'll get to that. But so I met Xenia in Stellenbosch, 13. I better get this right. We both traveled. She traveled more than I did. She saw over 100 countries.
Wow.
She was a sommelier on the Cunard ships, the Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, and all of those. And we met out in Stellenbosch, and I was 28, 29-ish. Yeah. So we met. She didn't believe me that I wasn't. She thought I was a student. So I obviously carried my years really well in my 20s. And I had to show her that like, I'm not, like I didn't have a student card or anything. She thought I was a student. And for me, it was great. I met this girl that was, first of all, wasn't a student. And second of all, who traveled the world. And, we just had she had intellect, and we could chat, and there was conversation, and she knew the world, and it was just different. And she wanted nothing to do with me at first, and I was very persistent, and eventually she gave in. So we started dating, and we got married towards the end of 2015. So about 2.5 years later we got married, and 2019 we had Josh. He's like a mirror image of myself. We do look a lot alike. We're very alike. And then Lexi came in 2021. January 2021. So boy, girl, they both great. Our life evolves around them, spending time with them. So that's why this move to Joburg was tough, because Salamia, we lived on the property there, and with this estate, holiday vibe, this life, small town sort of thing that we had going there, which was great. We kind of got it similar here. We also on the property here, so in a sense, it's very similar. We don't feel like we're in Joburg, and it was very important for us to have that with them, because they're only young ones, and we were very aware of it. So, Josh is becoming this real boy now. He's got his own interests, and, we play ball. And when I get home in the afternoon, he comes and says, no, he wants to practice his catching, and then I have to throw balls. And, but it's amazing, because even if a tough day at the office, 15 minutes with the kids, and it's like a gym session, everything is just out and gone. And you've just, so our life evolves around the kids, and, plans on weekends, and what we do is always got them in mind, and we're very fortunate. We've got two beautiful kids, and it's been great.
That's wonderful. It's interesting, like with our kids too, it feels like they're copycats of each of us too. And it's kind of shocking sometimes. Like you were saying, your son is a mirror image of you, but it's kind of like it's strange to stare at them and see them and their little quirks and things, and you're like, wow, okay, that's
I know it's so great, and I think like you say, you pick up on things, and like Josh, even though I think he looks a lot like me, but he's a lot more like Xenia, personality wise. Where I think Lexi is more personality wise, me. She's feisty, and she doesn't take nonsense from her brother, and she's just she's tiny, and he's this tall lump, So, but you're right. It's kids is. I've always wanted kids. Obviously, we waited a bit longer than most, but now that they're here, I think yes, we love spending time with them, and just seeing them grow, and seeing them evolve, and like with Josh, they were so good with the move, and our kids are amazing like that. This is my new school, these are my new friends, and this is my new house. Great, and they just go. They're
that's
amazing.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So family life is amazing.
that's wonderful. All right. Just your last words. What would you tell youngsters, when you've told me your story and you've shared a little bit about your journey, what would just be your encouragement to anyone, coming from a small town or pursuing a dream, especially in golf? What would you say to them? Or what would you say to yourself 20 years ago also?
I think I think I think I've taken a lot of that and implemented it with my team. I've got a lot of my team that comes from rural areas and this and that. And I always encourage them that nothing's impossible, absolutely nothing. Look at the little town that we grew up in, and y- I think in a way you sometimes had to dream big, to because it wasn't say encouraged, but it was kind of want to go and do great things. It was kind of the expectation, or if you set it for yourself to say, well, I want something different. And I think what I didn't realize back then is how important it was to consume information. I always expected people to come to me up, yeah, you're a great kid. Here's an opportunity for you. I sort of always expected that, but I didn't consume as much as I should have when I was young. So when I've got younger associates that's working for me, I encourage that. Just be a sponge. Just take on as much as you can, and then find your own way of implementing and setting out your path. I think in my 20s, I was just too much of a know-it-all, and didn't really take on as much as I should have. And that's why I'm trying to encourage it to my guys, is also to dream big. Like, if I look at it, and it's amazing how goals go, because 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you said to me, director of golf at Serengeti, do you want it? I would have said yes, I'll take it. And and then I was the director of golf at Serengeti, and I never thought this role where I'm now is possible. Even though I was in the industry, it felt so far, but it was actually so close. And but not realizing it. And now that I'm here, I look back and think you were so silly. You could have. Why didn't you think this was possible? Because here you are. You're doing it. You're living it,
Mhm.
and you're making it change. You're making a difference. You're making it better. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think we always see this, and I think youngsters today, I know it's a different generation and this and that, but again, the basics stays very much the same for all of us. And just being able to consume, and not being so fixed on your feelings, and somebody said this or said that, and just actually you know I don't know, it's different times, I guess, but I just believe that being able to sit in a room and listen to people, and actually realize who you're sitting in the room with is the CEO of that, or it's the chairman of this, or somebody who's done that, and actually realizing, I sat at Swartkoop Country Club as a young associate, and in the room I would have like Dale Hayes, who's a golfing legend, Dennis Hutchinson, who's the voice of golf, um, and who's the third one? Simon Hobday, who was a character, and they would be in the shop telling stories, and I don't, and I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have, because here you were with these three individuals that was like, you know, these figures in golf for many, many years, sitting, talking in the shop and telling stories. And they were quite funny and naughty stories, but they were great stories. But it was, not using those opportunities to say, but can I learn from them? Can I talk to them about the golf game? Can I talk to them about the golf swing? Can I pick their brain about the mental game? Because I need to be a better PGA professional. Because if I can implement that in my coaching, but my thinking wasn't like that. I would just, so I think that is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Realizing the opportunities when they're in front of you, and actually taking advantage of it.
That's some good advice. I think especially for youngsters, because I think Google can tell them everything, or Chat GTP can tell them everything, but there's
Mm.
something different from someone who've actually walked the walk, and have the experience under the belt. So that's great advice. Thanks for sharing that. Well, this kind of wraps up our interview. Is there any final thoughts or any final things you'd like to say to our old school buddies?
Yeah, look, I must say, I saw Yvonne. I saw the one you did with Yvonne, and I haven't seen Yvonne in, I don't know, 20 something years. Because Yvonne, we were good friends. I mean, I remember going to their farm and us
Yes.
getting up to no good on that farm. But it was just a good, clean fun, obviously. But it was just fun, and we had great times, and we would play golf together, and we would play rugby together, and it was so great to see his journey, because half of the stuff he did, I was like, I didn't even know that, because you don't really see each other anymore, him being in the US and this and that. So it has been great, and I think it's we chat every now and again. I still see a few of our school friends. I see Christo quite a bit, and Ulrich, I chat to him every now and again. He also became a PJ professional, and there's a few, but there's so many faces that you forget, and stories, and I see Mr. Potgieter every now and again, and we speak fondly of our rugby team. We had a really good first rugby team. We won everything, and we won the league, and we talk about that. I've got 1 or 2 pictures somewhere of it as well, and we had this unbelievable connection and team, and it's great to every now and again talk about it and think about it and reminisce of it. I think it was such a special time, that you don't realize shapes you, to who you are today. But it's nice to every now and again see somebody pop up on social media. It's with you shared a classroom with, or a sandwich with. I don't know. It was, it was just, it was great times, man. And you don't realize it when you're there about how special it actually is and how fondly you think of it. You just seem to think of it as just another day, it's just another rugby match, it's just another exam or whatever it is, but or concert. But when you think back, it's so special, and you wish that you could remember more, and every now and again a song pops up somewhere, and you think, oh, geez, I remember that, that was
Yes.
it was
I get
good memories.
flashbacks of the sockies.
So my dad's favorite thing, and it was a sockie at Modderfontein, and he cracked up. We had a sockie at Modderfontein, and I remember I took a cricket bat with, because we had to play cricket before the sockie. He thought the funniest thing he's ever seen. Like, my dad told that story for years and years and years. I took a cricket bat with to the sockie.
Oh,
And knowing me, I probably danced with it too. So
probably. Well, it's so cool for me on the other side to see people as well just grow into themselves, because we were just kids, not drie ore, and look at everyone, it's just so awesome to see how people just kind of found their purpose and matured, and like you and Yvonne, both of you are just so approachable and humble, and I really enjoy that I could talk with you. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. I think this is so cool. It's such a nice way to connect with everybody again, and not just to connect for you, but to also give us the opportunity to watch in and see who's done what, and because I always love the American yearbook ones. You've seen it, and they've got the yearbooks, and this person is most likely to do whatever and whatnot. And I wish we had something like that to sort of look back on, to say, where is everyone? What's everybody up to? Some stories are probably great, some aren't that great. I don't know. But it's really nice to for you to be able to do this, because we are talking. We haven't really spoke or seen each other in, I don't know, forever.
Right.
I think you guys have been out of the country for a long time too. So it's just been nice, man. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Sun rises over high-felt skies, early dew on a practice green. Pierre's got clubs and quiet focus, chasing more than just a dream. From small town starts to fairway lines, he learned young what it takes. You don't rush the swing or skip the work, every shot's a choice you make. He says, stay steady, trust your ground, let patience lead the way. 'Cause golf's more than a game you taught you. From South African mornings to fairways far and wide, he carried home in his heartbeat, no matter where he played outside. Stay humble when you're leading, stay gracious when you're not. The real win isn't trophies, it's the character you've got. 'Cause golf's more than clubs and tees, it's grit, respect, integrity. When life puts you in the rough, you don't quit, you toughen up. Shot by shot, round by round, you build a life on solid ground. Play it straight, live it true, that's the legacy Pierre leaves you. So tee it high under African skies, let your worries fade from view. Life's a long and beautiful fairway, and the next shot's up to you.
Generate by AI.